Hello, all. Welcome, Erin Kerry. She is back by demand. People just absolutely love her lectures and have learned so much. She is the host of Sparking Wholeness, which is a great podcast. I've listened to several episodes, and you've had some really great guests on. I know it's gotten you shut down in the past. Your guests were so good. But we're really happy to have you here. Today, we're going to learn about mindful eating and how to nourish your brain and body and have a better relationship with food. And I know your story is tremendous. I'm not going to steal it. I'm going to let you tell it, how you overcame so many things and health challenges just with nutrition. And congratulations, by the way. I see that you have embraced a whole new career. You've purchased a wellness facility, as I see. So this is exciting times for you.
Yes, I didn't purchase the wellness facility, but I do work. My husband and I both work there, and it has been an exciting journey for our entire family. Yes, living in East Texas now.
Wow. Well, congratulations. That's such a tremendous leap of faith, and I'm so happy for you both. I'm going to just shrink down and let you take this away and bring up your PowerPoint, and thanks for being here.
Okay, now if I click, I want to make sure I'm doing the technology right. Mm-hmm. How do I show the PowerPoint? Oh, you've got it. Awesome. Mm-hmm.
Thank
you. Okay, well, we will get started. Great. Well, thank you so much. Anybody who is listening, who's watching this, I appreciate you taking the time. I know we are all so busy, but mental health is always important. I believe that everything starts with the brain. And if our brain is not regulated, nothing else is regulated. And we cannot make good decisions. We cannot function optimally, which is what we want, especially when it comes to food, right? So I've put together a little presentation that just brings some of my favorite topics, which are mindful eating and mental health nutrition. And I'm blending it all together to teach us how we can stop stressing about what we're eating and embrace nutrient-dense food in a way that is, again, not stressful, but is beneficial for our whole bodies, because anything that we're doing for our brain is going to impact our whole body health. So I am going to go to the next slide. It's going to take me a second to switch back and forth. All right, so these are the things that we're going to cover today. Number one is that your thoughts impact your nourishment. We can talk about how healthy we're eating and we can plan our meals, but when our thoughts are positive, when our thoughts are filled with gratitude, it really does make an impact on our inflammation as a whole and our stress levels, and it helps us to digest better. So I'm going to get into that in a little bit more detail in a second. Second, your nourishment impacts your thoughts. That's so important. So of course, it goes both ways because we know gut-brain axis goes both ways. So that's why I focus on both when we're talking about nutrition. I'm going to give you the best mindfulness practices for eating, and then I really, really want to dig into the 12 key nutrients for mental health and antidepressant foods. Yes, there are antidepressant foods, anti-anxiety foods, and I'm going to share those with you. And then the last thing, and I want to make sure that I use time wisely enough because I really want to discuss how to build a brain boosting meal without a recipe. Recipes are stressful. And again, we don't want to be stressed out because when we're stressed out, we are not utilizing our nutrients in our food the way that we need to. So next up, your thoughts matter more than you think. And yeah, that play on words is intentional. Every single thought that you think is a chemical messenger for every cell in your body. And I explain this with every single person that I work with. It is one thing to just say, yeah, I'm going to eat better. Yeah, I'm going to exercise. But if your thoughts, if you're not in a place of gratitude, if you are not in a place where your brain is regulated, where you're managing your stress, it doesn't really matter. When you have good thoughts, you're going to have good digestion. When you have toxic thoughts, you are going to have toxic digestion. As I always say, a body in stress will not digest. So for example, let's talk about dieting, because right now we do see, and I just read a study the other day about how even in children, weights are going up and we are becoming more inflamed. We're becoming more overweight. A lot of this does, I believe, have to do with fear and anxiety driving inflammation in our bodies because of everything that we've been through the last 2 years. But we need to look beyond just dieting, because we would look at the data and the studies and be like, oh, okay, yeah, I have gained some weight. I've gained, 20 pounds. Maybe I've gained 10 pounds the last 2 years. So I need to crack down. I need to get on a diet. I need to cut my calories. I need to exercise more. And okay, so at first that might work for you because you're feeling positive about it, right? And now you're running on adrenaline, you're running on really you're running on stress hormones going, I've got to do this thing and I'm planning my meals and I've got it all together. Eventually, what happens when you're not nourishing yourself with enough nutrients, your body, you're going to start craving the junk again. It's going to stress you out and it's going to cause you to go towards a lot of the foods that are quick fuel, less nutrient dense. So we're talking about, like the processed carbs and the sugars. A lot of people go towards those when they're stressed, because when we're stressed, our brain has a difficult time making good decisions. Our prefrontal cortex, where we make our decisions, it's shut down when we're in a place of stress. And so it's really easy to go for that quick fuel because number one, we're undernourished. And number two, we're stressed out. So a diet might work for a while and we might lose a little bit of weight, but eventually when we are just looking at restriction of calories, a lot of times we forget that we're not filling up on enough nutrients, and long term, it's not going to be balancing for our brain. And so there has to be another way. And so for me, the biggest thing that I try to encourage my clients to talk about, that I try to do with myself, and I didn't even give background, but I am a mental health survivor. The reason I talk about this is because I was diagnosed with PTSD, depression, and bipolar disorder all by the time I was 18 years old. And so I have to ask myself, how am I nourishing my brain today? How am I nourishing my brain? How am I nourishing my body? How am I nourishing myself? And that goes beyond just what I'm putting in my mouth. That goes into what thoughts am I putting into my head? What positive thoughts am I thinking? And I'm not just talking about like, think positive, but am I being grateful? Do I have gratitude? Am I sitting in stillness? Am I reading truth, things that are positive and uplifting for me? Am I spending time in meditation and in prayer? Because when that happens, everything else is much more nourishing. And I'm going to explain what that means. So we talk about you are what you eat, right? But I think it goes deeper than that. You are what you digest. You are what you absorb. You also are what you think about what you eat. So we all have heard about the term gut health and inflammation and how every disease starts in the gut, right? Well, when the gut isn't happy, nobody is happy. When you're thinking poor thoughts, you're increasing intestinal permeability. When you're thinking toxic thoughts, it leads to toxic digestion, as I mentioned before. And I think that that's really, really important to remember when we're talking about how we present food to our bodies. Are we accepting it with gratitude, or are we going, ooh, I don't know, I can't have that. That has this and this. It was probably made in this way and it has all these pesticides. And yes, it's important to be aware of what's in our food and how it's going to nourish our bodies. But the more we stress about it, again, it's going to lead to poor digestion. Poor digestion leads to inflammation, lack of proper signaling to the brain when it comes to neurotransmitters. Our neurotransmitters are developed in the gut. So when the gut isn't happy, nobody is happy. Your brain is not happy. Your brain is not receiving neurotransmitters that you need. So again, it's not just what you eat. It's what you are, what you absorb and you digest, and what you can actually utilize. When you're in a place of stress, you're doing none of that. When you're eating a really heavy, caloric restrictive diet, that might not be happening either, because you might not be getting the nutrients that you need to feed your gut, which feeds your brain. Many of us are overfed. We've heard this 1,000 times probably. We are overfed and we're undernourished. So we're getting lots of food, but it's nutrient poor food. It could have to do with the soil. It could have to do with the pesticides. It could have to do with, we're tired and we're stressed and we're just going to eat some chips. I mean, there have been times in my life when I'm so stressed and worn down. I don't want to sit down and make a meal. I'd rather just open up a bag of chips and cope and numb out, because that's what's easy for me to do. And if that's where you are in your life, I'm so sorry. I empathize with you. And it's okay to give yourself grace for those times where you're just caving in. But again, it starts here. And sometimes it starts in the gut as well, right? It starts with both. What are you putting into your mind and what are you putting into your body? And these mechanisms that we fight so hard against, they aren't signals when we're talking about anxiety, depression, when we're talking about even emotional eating, overeating. These are not signals that your body is broken. It's not a signal that your brain is broken. It's a signal that your body is protecting you. And a lot of, even if we look at inflammation, right? We talk about inflammation as if it's this, oh, it's this horrible thing. And it definitely can be low grade over time as it adds up. But inflammation is a protective mechanism in the body. You're injured and your body is becoming inflamed to repair. The problem is that we continue to injure our bodies through our thoughts, through the food that we're eating, which is what the two focuses are today. There are many other ways that we can injure our body that just capitates the environment of inflammation. And so we never have a break. So again, if you're stressed, you're not digesting, you're not absorbing your nutrients. And again, if you're like thinking, well, I'm just going to cut back on my food, I'm going to eat this calorically restricted diet, that might leave you with nutrients that you really need to continue to make better decisions with what you're eating. And we're going to get to that in a second. So I really want to get to briefly just what are mindfulness practices when it comes to mealtime. What are ways that we can be mindful, we can slow down so that our bodies are optimizing digestion, because we have to be able to receive nutrients from our food. The number one thing is we are eating way too fast. Some of that started in school because we were given 20 minutes to eat, but we also wanted to talk to our friends. So we're used to just going really fast. Some of it, a lot of us are working from home. And so, man, if I can eat while I'm working, I'm getting two things done at once. More is better, right? That's the American way. And that's not the case. So slow down, take a deep breath before you eat, chew your food. I think I heard it said that some people only chew like 6 times. And part of that has to do with what we're eating. French fries, I mean, I don't even know if you need to chew them 6 times, they go down real easy. So chew your food, activate the digestive enzymes that you need to break it down. It's really important. The other thing about chewing is it's so important because the less that we chew, the harder our GI tract has to work. So if you're only chewing 5 or 6 times, now you're just telling your body, you got to take over from here. And so some of us, we have all sorts of uncomfortable GI symptoms because we're not chewing our food long enough. And again, coming from a place of gratitude is so, so important. There's a reason that historically we pray before meals. And sure, a lot of that could be just honoring, what we have been provided and being grateful for what's been provided for us and being grateful for the people who put it together. But some of that is just, wow, it's a time to calm your mind and get your body into that rest and digest state. It's called rest and digest for a reason, right? Consider quality over quantity. That's really important. Again, we rush so much during the day that by the time we eat, we are like, okay, well, I've got to go through, I'm in Texas. We have Whataburger here. I'm going to go through Whataburger and I'm going to get a number 1 and I'm going to get an extra large, upsize it, whatever you call it. I don't even know. Get a big Dr. Pepper, again, another Texas thing. And I'm just going to eat that really fast. And yes, you can eat 1,500 calories, 2,000 calories in less than 10 minutes. But your body needs a good 20 minutes for your gut to tell your brain, I am full. So we can order food fast, we can chew it fast, and we can be done and move on with our day. But it takes your body so much more time to acknowledge, oh, I received some nutrients, I received food. So slowing it down makes such a big impact in how your body digests and absorbs food and how your body utilizes nutrients. So again, quality over quantity. I can eat, going with that Whataburger example, I can eat a number 1 from there in 10 minutes. I will be hungry 30 minutes later. No lie. And the reason that is because I am not getting quality nutrients. And so I think that that's really important too, is just be aware. Do you feel full? Some of us don't even know what that is. We don't know what it means to feel full. We don't know really what it means to feel hungry, like a good, reasonable hunger, because we go too long until we're really hungry, or we eat just because it's there. We eat because it's out of habit. But tune in with your hunger signals, and slowing down to enjoy your meals can really help to realign those hunger signals that are so, so important. And there are so many other, we could talk all sorts of things on hunger hormones and leptin and ghrelin And I'm not going to get into that today, but it really is important to slow down. One piece of homework I could leave you with is take yourself out to lunch. Take yourself out to lunch, put your phone away, don't bring a book with you. I know a lot of people like to read when they're eating, but just sit and be and think about how you're nourishing your body. Be present with your body and noticing those feelings of fullness, of even enjoying the colors and the flavors and the textures. We eat so fast, we don't even enjoy our food. So this is so important to tell our bodies we are safe. I can rest and digest now. I'm providing my body with nutrients. And then your body goes, yes, I am safe and I'm going to digest and absorb this. I know I can go on and on this. It seems like it's such a basic concept. And you might be like, okay, move on. Let's get to the next slide. But I think that this is something we miss because it's so basic and because it is so intuitive. We would rather rely on what other people tell us to eat and the time frame they tell us to eat, with the macros they tell us to count and the calories they tell us to live by, right? And so we would rather rely on other people's guidelines for our eating than our own body cues. And so I really encourage you, take yourself out to eat breakfast, lunch, dinner, whatever it is, and be present with your body, because your body needs to know you're safe. Most of you, I would guess, your bodies think that you're running from a tiger 24/7. I identify with that. I put myself into stress all the time. Oh, I got to do this. Forgot to do this. Now I got to go get my kids. There's always something, but we are not meant to live in the sympathetic fight or flight state all the time. And that is I believe, the number one reason we are all so sick and unhealthy is because it starts here. It starts with that rushed panic state, perpetuates more panic, perpetuates more fight or flight, and poor digestion, poor absorption. And you can be eating the best diet in the world, but if you're freaked out about every little thing that's going on while you're eating, it doesn't matter. So all right, I will put that slide to rest and move on. But I hope that that's something that you can really take away from this. So let's talk about the 12 key nutrients for mental health. I love, love, love this because the first randomized controlled trial for food and mood was done in 2017. And that was the SMILE study. It was all about the the Mediterranean diet. And it took a group of people for 12 weeks, and it showed that I believe the number was about 33% of them achieved remission from their symptoms of moderate to severe depression. And I'm not going to go too much farther into that, but that was a groundbreaking study. And then a year after that, in 2018, in the World Journal of Psychiatry, the antidepressant food study was introduced. And you can look this up. You can Google this. It's common knowledge. It is not something that, this is not just information that I'm, able to look at and you can't. Google it. I'm not going to go into all the ins and outs of the study, but I do think it's important because, again, we can get so wrapped up in calories and macros and nutrition facts and all of that. But what this study shows is that there are 12 key nutrients found to be beneficial for brain health, and they are considered antidepressant nutrients. And these nutrients, as you're looking at here, folate, iron, omega-3, and that includes EPA, DHA, magnesium, potassium, selenium, thiamine, vitamin A, vitamin B6, B12, vitamin C, and zinc. And so some of you are looking at that and you're going, well, duh, obviously I take supplements. I know, I get this every day, no big deal. And that's great. Supplementing is super important. We're probably not going to get all of the nutrients we need from our food ever. And there are lots of amazing quality supplements that are going to supply this, but your body does need nutrients in whole food form as much as possible. And I know, gosh, I think I recently saw a study in 2010. There's a study done that 27% of Americans get what they need of their daily servings, 3 or more servings of vegetables a day. Sorry, I had that all backwards how I'm saying that. But 27%, I think it's probably lower. And then recently I've read, and because that was 11 years ago, recently I read that only 9% of Americans are getting the daily recommended, whatever the recommendation is for vegetables, 3 to 5 servings a day. And that seems more accurate because I think most people are, again, we are stressed out, we're rushing, we're getting what we need when we need it. And we're not thinking, well, I should roast some vegetables tonight. So most people are not getting what they need as far as nutrient density. So all of these nutrients, these are the highest nutrient density for preventing and treating depression. And so when we're talking about depression, anxiety, mental health issues, there are all sorts of root causes, but the most common one is inflammation. When you have inflammation in your body, that inflammation is going to impact your brain. So again, all of this research is telling us that brain health issues are inflammatory. Well, we also have a lot of research showing that most chronic diseases are inflammatory at the root. So anything that you're going to do for your brain, this is why I focus on brain health. Anything that you're going to do for your brain that's anti-inflammatory for your brain can be beneficial for the rest of your body. And I mean, again, just looking at some of these items here, I know, first of all, that omega-3 fatty, know that that's beneficial for brain health. But did you know that omega-3 fatty acids, zinc, and magnesium all promote the expression of brain-derived neurotrophic factor? And I love talking about brain-derived neurotrophic factor because this impacts neuroplasticity. This is where your brain isn't stuck. You can change your brain. You can grow your neurons. You can help to improve the functioning between synapses. That's many people are on prescription medication to improve activity between synapses in your brain. But we also know that many of those medications deplete these nutrients that we need for brain health. And so like SSRIs, they deplete us of B vitamins. Well, what do we need for mental health? We need B vitamins. We need vitamin B6 and B12. And so I am not telling anybody to go off, and never, ever, ever will I ever say just go hop off your meds, because that's actually super dangerous. It's one of the most dangerous things you can do if you're not under the care of a practitioner. But I am saying that if you're on a medication, and not just antidepressants, but many of our commonly prescribed medications deplete us of these very things that we need for mental health. So when you consider that, let's just think again. I'm in a stressed out state. I am a mom. I have 3 kids. I have 1,000 different things that I do for work. I also have a husband, and I have to pick up my kids from school and take my kids to school. And then I need to fix dinner, and I have like all these. Oh, and then I want to also work out, because working out's important. I have these things that I'm doing all the time. We need these nutrients for functioning. But when we are literally running from a tiger every day, right? Okay, figuratively, I know it's not literal, but your body doesn't know the difference. Your body doesn't know that you're not running from a tiger. Your body just says, we are stressed and we are in flight mode, fight or flight or freeze all the time. Well, when you're doing that, you're probably using up all of the nutrients you need to function. And so again, since we're going to be burning through those B vitamins under stress, we need to be supplementing. So let me get to where this shows up in food. All right. So what I did here is I took each nutrient and I looked at the highest density of nutrients in food. And so, like, for example, folate, leafy greens, we know we can find a huge amount of folate from our leafy greens. And so by leafy greens, I'm talking spinach, I'm talking kale, I'm talking Swiss chard, all of those things that we typically, it's not our go-to. It doesn't you can't just crunch it and go, I'm going to have a handful of spinach. If you do that, that's amazing. I'm impressed, but it's not really a go-to. So, but that is a really high concentration of folate, and we have to have folate for neurotransmitter function, for methylation, for all things, right? So let's look at iron. The best way to get iron is going to be in red meat. Now, I don't recommend you getting any kind of red meat. You want to get quality red meat. And I won't go through every single one of these, but I want you to see that you can get your nutrients for mental health in some of these. I mean, they double up. Look at potassium, leafy greens. You can get leafy greens, and you're crossing out a couple of these categories. You can have your salmon. There are other ways you can get omega-3s, but of course, wild salmon is going to be the most nutrient dense when it comes to getting omega-3s. So you could build, and I will talk about how to build a meal in a second, but you can look at ways that you can just slowly kind of add some of these things in through your day. Selenium, I love Brazil nuts for selenium. That's really nourishing for thyroid hormones. And so you could just have like 3 or 4 Brazil nuts a day. Okay, check. That's just one other thing I can do to nourish my body. Again, I'm not telling you to cut out sugar. I'm not telling you to cut out anything. I'm telling you, what are you adding in to nourish your body? Because sometimes we struggle with cutting things out because we're not adding in enough nourishment. So we are not we don't have enough nutrients in our body supporting our health. And we go, well, I'm just going to cut all this stuff out. And it's stressful because now we're in a stress mode because we've done cutting out of all these things that we love. And then also it's stressful because our body is continuing to be depleted of these nutrients, even though you are supposedly doing something great for your body. So what are some other zinc? I love oysters. Oysters are probably packed with many, many things for brain health. It's probably the most nutrient dense when it comes to brain healthy foods. And we can get to that in a minute. But even you can see here, eggs are on here. Dairy, not all dairy is horrible. I think all of these whole food nutrients, they have a place when it comes to mental health. And we are so quick to cut out groups like, oh, I read this thing about this and how this is processed, can't have that. But I think just coming at it with an open mind and looking at how did our ancestors survive, if they were vegan. That's controversial. And maybe there is a benefit to going vegan for a short time period, but most cultures ancestrally developed on some kind of animal product, animal protein. So it does have a role. It does have a place. And so I really would challenge you, if you have these food rules, again, if we want to be mindful about our food, some of us have food rules, and I put myself in that category. I've done this in the past. We have food rules about our food that actually came from what somebody else said about our food. It doesn't have anything to do with how our bodies can handle the food. So adding some of these things in and seeing how it works for your body in a way that you can see a lot of different colors, you can get a lot of different flavor, a lot of different texture, that also is impactful for your brain health. So I'm going to move on to the MVP list. These are the top foods. If I could encourage you to include these 8 things on a regular basis, I think that you would be receiving your nutrients for your brain in a way that you haven't before. I think that you would really be ahead of the game when it comes to brain health. And so leafy greens, like I already said, those are going to be MVPs. Eggs and dairy, rainbow, fruits and veggies. That's all of them, guys. All of them. Just all the colors of the rainbow and fruits and veggies. They contain so many important phytonutrients, and your body recognizes that as food. Many of the things that we put into our body doesn't even recognize as food. So it's a stressor. It is stressful to receive products with canola oil. Your body's like, what? Do not get this. This does not compute. So thinking about these whole food sources, nuts, beans, and seeds, again, you want to debate lectins? We could go there. I know there's not everything is going to be great for everybody. I am just looking at 12 key nutrients for mental health, and these are the 8 foods that probably contain the most. Seafood is another thing. Fermented foods. We don't eat a lot of fermented foods in our culture. Every culture, it seems like, has some form of fermented foods, and we have kombucha that's like 20 grams of sugar, and I don't know if that really counts. So looking beyond the fancy kombucha, look towards sauerkraut. Kimchi is fun because it's real spicy. I love sauerkraut with eggs, by the way. If you haven't tried it, you can put it on a salad with leafy greens. That's another good way to enjoy sauerkraut. And it's something just to get used to and try. Meat, different forms of meat. Again, I'm going to say quality is always going to be better here. And then I threw dark chocolate on there because who doesn't love dark chocolate? It's a huge, huge antioxidant rich food, and it's comforting and it makes us feel good. I will say that a lot of people, they have dark chocolate before night and it can disrupt their sleep. So just keep that in mind. But we will move on to the antidepressant food score. I love this. This is really, let me find my piece of paper here that has, hold on one second. the antidepressant food score. I love this. So this is where we have the percentage score ranking the nutrient density of 12 of those 12 key nutrients and how they show up in food. So many of the foods that have a high antidepressant food score, they're not commonly eaten as part of our Western diet. We eat the standard American diet, and we're not getting all of those foods that I showed 2 slides ago, right? So again, the majority of the United States, people in the United States, we are not getting the daily recommendation for vegetables. Like I said before, 2010, they did a survey that showed 27% of Americans ate 3 or more servings of veggies a day. But then I recently read that's closer to 9%. That seems more accurate. So if we think about food as medicine, and if we think about, even, and not just food as medicine, food is so much more than that. Food is about comfort. Food is about flavor and texture and enjoyment and pleasure. And that's a great thing. But when we think about that, we are not finding that we're receiving pleasure from our healthy food because we're like, but I don't want to eat healthy food. I know food is medicine, but I don't know how to make it. It doesn't taste good to me. And so I just want to reframe that, because when we're putting enough variety on our plate, and by variety, I mean variety of textures, variety of colors, variety of flavors, when we are keeping enough variety in our food, in our diet, it does seem to be more satiating. And even when we receive enough flavor combinations, our tongue receives that and sends a signal to our body of, oh, I've had enough. The problem is that most of the foods that we eat, they have been chemically processed to be addicting. There are people spending billions of dollars, right, to make foods addicting to us so that it hits this pleasure point and it tells our brain, well, I should be done, but we keep on eating it. And so you're not going to get that in natural foods. I don't know anybody who's ever said, I just could not stop eating liver, beef liver. I couldn't stop. Once I started, I had to have more, and it's not the case, because it is so nutrient packed. You're going to receive the amount that you need, and your body's going to go, yep, I'm done. So just even that might be a good reflective question. If you have a food that you're like, oh, once I start eating that, I can't stop. That's a good indicator. Like, what is that actually? My question would be, what is that actually doing for you? If you can't stop, does that mean that you're not even getting the nutrients that you need? And so your body continues to consume the French fries thinking, I'm going to pull nutrients from this. I'm going to pull, but you can't, and so there are all sorts of other things that go into what makes a food, quote, addictive for us. And there are all sorts of neurotransmitters and brain function, and even just the chemical composition of food that comes into play to make it how it is. And so I'm not going to get into all that, but just from a basic intuitive level, it is really hard to overdo it on, I'm looking here at this list here, watercress, right? I've never heard anyone say, oh, I just can't stop eating watercress, because naturally your body has a stopping point when it comes to these foods. When we're talking about these other foods, whether it's the French fries or pizza is a big one that it's like, I call that my gateway drug of foods. If I have pizza, I can't seem to stop. And it's like, number one, my body is getting the casomorphin, the gluteomorphine, right? That's important. That's like a drug for my brain. But number two, I don't know if I'm getting the nutrient density that I would get if I made a meal at home that contains a good protein, a vegetable, a healthy fat. It's just not going to happen. Okay. So these antidepressant foods, they were separated into two categories, animal foods and plant foods. And so as you can see here, oysters are at 56%. I think that's crazy, because again, oysters is not going to be a lot of people, that's not your go-to. I have found that you can find good quality smoked oysters in a can, and they kind of almost taste a little bit cheesy. So if you like cheese and that's something that's appealing to you and you don't mind the smell of oysters, that can be really good to have. I'll have it with salad, or I'll have it on like a flax cracker. It's looks really tasty. But oysters, start incorporating oysters. I'm going to give percentages. I didn't write them up there, but liver and organ meats, that's a tricky one. That's going to be a tricky one to consume. That might be something where you might want to get desiccated liver in capsule form. That might be more beneficial and more realistic for you and your lifestyle. But that is going to be 18 to 38%. Poultry giblets, did I even say that right? Because I don't, that's not a thing that I go for. Now, Thanksgiving, my brother makes a giblet gravy. Shout out to my brother who makes a giblet gravy with turkey giblets. And that is a 31% antidepressant food score. Clams are 30%, mussels are 28%. So really, if I look at the list, and you can look this up, I listed, just Google antidepressant food scores. You can look this up. It's available definitely on PubMed, but you can look at the list of foods here, and it's every single seafood that you can imagine. Salmon is at 10 to 16%. So it's not as high as you might think. Again, we're talking about, yes, salmon is high in omega-3s, but we're talking about all of the nutrients that make up, our brain healthy foods. Though we're looking at what's the most concentrated amount. So looking at the plant foods, plants are more nutrient dense, more antidepressant, in looks than animal foods. And that doesn't mean to go vegan, again, because there is a place. We are going to get complete B vitamins from animal foods. We are going to get omega-3s in a better, more absorbable form from animal foods. So there's definitely a role that animal foods play. But look at watercress, 127%, so many nutrients in such a small, tiny thing that you're not even thinking about adding into your diet. Spinach is at 97%. Mustard, turnip, beet greens are at 76 to 93%. Swiss chard is at 90%. Oh, lettuces is at 74 to 99%. Fresh herbs is at 73 to 75%. So a lot of times we don't think about cilantro, basil, parsley. We overlook them. We don't think, well, I'm just going to add this to my salad. But imagine if you had a salad, because salads get a bad rap, right? Like when we think of salads, we think about dieting and we think, this is just not whatever, it's rabbit food. But green vegetables are extremely nutrient dense for such a small thing. But I also want to remind you that you want to consume with a healthy fat, like extra virgin olive oil, because that's going to help you absorb the fat soluble vitamins that are present in the green vegetables. Also important to note. So, and we'll get more into, I'm about to get into making recipes or making food without a recipe. I'm about to get into that. So hold on. The other thing I will note, it's not on here. You can look it up on the list. But when we're talking about fruit, one of the top fruits with an antidepressant food score of 31% is papaya. Who thinks about adding papaya in? We don't really get good papaya here in the US. Central America is where I have found the best, most delicious papaya. But if you can find a good papaya, that's 31%. So it is really packed with nutrients. Lemon is at 31%. What if you just started your day with a glass of lemon water? You know how many health gurus talk about that? You don't do it. These are things that we're told, but it's too simple. We want to do the hard things. We'd rather go on the diet where we're planning out our macros and counting our calories. Again, there's nothing wrong with that, but we don't think about, what if I just added in a few of these things a week? What if you played around with watercress? Play with your food. What if you added spinach to chili? It's chili season, y'all. We love chili here in Texas, and I'm making it tonight. So what if I chopped up some spinach, added it to my chili? What if I blended spinach or some of these greens in with a spaghetti sauce? What if I took whatever tomato sauce I'm going to use to make spaghetti and I blended in some green things, some cilantro, basil, parsley? I mean, this list, there are way more things on the antidepressant food score, but I really want you to look at, instead of stressing about your food and having a perfect recipe and making sure that we meet all of our, caloric needs and all of our macros and all of that. Again, there's a place for that. But some of us, when we're in stress, the best we can do is say, you know what? I'm eating a green vegetable today, and that is the best that I can do with what I have in my life going on right now. And that's okay. We have to be able to start small. And so, I'm not going to go into the the other foods, but right now we're at a time where pumpkin, butternut squash, all of these things are in season, and those also have a really high antidepressant food score. So enjoy your pumpkin, enjoy blending, pumpkin into a smoothie. Again, I don't love drinking my nutrients as much as I love to chew my nutrients, but that still is going to give you a lot of bang for your buck when it comes to nourishing our brains during a time when many people are going to start going on that downward spiral. We're losing the vitamin D, we're losing the sun, and so our brains start to suffer seasonally during these fall and winter months. And so it's very important to go, okay, which of these things can I just add in? And I know my mindset, I'm thinking positively about the nutrients that I'm nourishing myself with today. Again, what are you nourishing yourself with? So that is where I'm going to go to my favorite way of thinking about this and including this for myself, including this for my family, because we overcomplicate. And if you see this and you think that I'm making it overcomplicated, I am sorry. It's okay. I'm sorry if this is overcomplicating it for you. You are probably in a place where you just need to do the bare minimum, but I'm going to give you an acronym that spells out the word brain. And if that is too much for you, go back to what I just said about adding in a little bit of spinach, adding in a little bit of vegetables every day, and just start there. Don't get all wrapped up in this acronym, okay? So this is my Brain Bowl acronym. I love this because it really incorporates all of the 12 key nutrients. And we are starting with the letter B, and the letter B stands for a base of greens or grains. And this is something that you can do for lunch. This is something you do for breakfast. This is something you can do for dinner. Start with a base of greens or grains. Now, ideally, maybe you want both. Ideally, maybe you just want greens, because as I just showed you, greens are going to be extremely nutrient dense when it comes to benefiting our mental health. But grains, and they do fit with many people, and they do make people feel better depending on who you are. Not everybody is going to do well with grains all the time, but some rice or some quinoa or maybe oats, or my family, we really like grits or polenta. That's the fancy way of saying grits. You can start with that. And so just that goes with greens. You can have them cooked, you can have them raw. Again, when it comes to the study that I showed you, they measured all of those raw, but different people are going to digest. Again, right? We talked about digestion. Different people are going to digest foods differently. And so not everybody's going to do great with raw veggies. Not everybody's going to be great with cooked veggies either. So you've got to find what works for you. I will just throw my favorite is arugula. I love arugula, and I'll just throw some arugula at the bottom of a bowl. And then we go to R, and R is rainbow of veggies. So this is where you want to cook in bulk. You want to cook more veggies than you think that you're going to eat, because we can always repurpose them and reuse them the next day. So this time of year, I love roasting my veggies. In the summer, maybe I would do more raw veggies, but right now I really like just thinking about warmth and nutrition. I want my nutrition to be soothing and warm for my body as we are heading into fall and winter. And so I look at things like broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts. I love Brussels sprouts. Brussels sprouts are so great, especially with bacon. I will say that makes them extra tasty. And bacon was not part of the antidepressant food score. Really disappointed about that. But rainbow veggies, this could be anything that you like, that you want to roast, throw on a pan, cook it for about 30 minutes at 400 degrees or so. I like to use avocado oil. It's safer for high heat cooking. You can also do extra virgin olive oil. That's going to be better at a lower heat, because we don't want our oils to oxidize. That's no good for our brain health either. But I would roast all of those and then add those to my greens or my grains. And I try to make it as colorful as possible, because that makes me happy and that's pleasing to my eye, which also is pleasing to my taste buds. And then we go to A, which is add protein. And with protein, we could add salmon. As we just saw, salmon is one of the most nutrient-dense foods that you can add when it comes to your mental health. So salmon, you can add chicken. You could add some sort of grass-fed beef that you like, whether it's grass-fed ground beef or steak or, whatever it is, you add your protein and just make sure that it is, a better quality. That's always going to be important. And then the I is include seasonings and sauces. Ideally, you're going to include this in the cooking process. When I roast my vegetables, I always include garlic. I always include a little bit of onion, either onion powder or just sliced onions. Great prebiotic. And then garlic is a great one that helps to boost glutathione, which we all need so much right now. But garlic, onion, I usually do something spicy, like a little cayenne or paprika or a smoked paprika. Those are some of my favorites that I go to. Of course, salt. I choose the pink Himalayan salt. I think that has there are a lot of really great things about it as far as minerals go. And then pepper. Sometimes I'm not the biggest fan of black pepper, but it does have a place. Turmeric is another one. Embrace things like curry. I have a hard time getting my family on board with curry, but if your family loves curry, go for it. So all of these seasonings can make your food more flavorful, which of course is going to let your body know that you're getting different nutrients, herbs. Again, like I mentioned before, cilantro, parsley, rosemary on roasted potatoes, one of my favorite things. And rosemary has a ton of brain boosting benefits. And so include the herbs, the seasonings, sauces. When it comes to sauces, I have no affiliation with this brand, but I really like the quality of Primal Kitchen's brands. So, if you're talking about a quick meal to throw together and you don't have any time, you want to use your slow cooker, I'll throw in some chicken breasts with a Primal Kitchen's barbecue sauce and just let that sit in the slow cooker for 6 hours or whatever. You don't really need much more seasoning than that. And then you can add that to a bowl. And I like any of those Primal Kitchen seasonings, but you can also make your own. You can make or sauces. I'm sorry, it's not a seasoning, it's a sauce. You can make your own. Just it's easy to look up, how would I, or play with it, use like coconut aminos. And I'm trying to think of other things that we've done before. Dijon mustard, that can be really good to season up or to flavor up some meat that you're going to cook, whether it's grilling or roasting or whatever it is, or air fryer. Air fryers are good for when you're trying to do something in a hurry. Maple syrup. I know that is sweet. It is sugar. I understand the controversy, but organic maple syrup does have a place. So does honey, especially when we're talking about raw honey. That can be very beneficial. So adding that, to some salmon, to marinate your salmon in that, cook your salmon in that with chili powder, cayenne, that can be something that is just another way to make your food flavorful. You want your food to taste good. We want to eat healthy food that tastes good and is nourishing for us. Otherwise, we're just going to order a pizza because we're making some flavorful sludge that doesn't even taste good. So play with it. Include whatever seasonings that you like. We're big on salsa at my house. We usually get a different kind of salsa every week just to try. And you want to check your ingredients and make sure there are no oils in there. We have found that there often can be canola oil or soybean oil in many commonly used salsas, which is just unnecessary. But you can use that and add that to your bowl. You can, I could go on and on about that. But I'm going to move on to N. And N is nuts, seeds, or other fats. And this is fun because this adds that texture. This adds that crunch. So you can use pumpkin seeds. You can use chia seeds. You can use peanuts, slivered almonds. And yes, peanuts are legumes, cashews. Those can be controversial for some people, but they can be very tasty in a brain bowl, especially if we're just trying to create new ways of adding flavor to our food that makes healthy food taste good. And then other fats. So this is where I would include something like guacamole, avocado. That's always going to top off brain bowls in my family. So a common brain bowl, I'll just give you an example. Something we do a lot in our house is shrimp and grits. And we do shrimp and grits in a very different way. We have tomatoes, we have bell peppers and onions and garlic. And we actually use scissors to cut up arugula or spinach in just a tiny pieces. It works great. And we top it with that. And then it looks pretty. Or parsley, cilantro. And so instead of just shrimp and grits, it is a super fast meal where we're just throwing together just about everything in our refrigerator. And this is where I would do a kitchen clean out too. Just going, what do we have left over? So say you get your groceries at the beginning of the week or over the weekend. By the end of the week, you're like, well, gosh, I have a potato left over. I have a sweet potato. I have this random bell pepper. I have an onion. You're thinking about all these random things. We usually have leftover vegetables in our refrigerator at the end of the week. This is what you would do. Throw it all together. I have never met a vegetable that doesn't get along well with another vegetable. They're all very good friends and they all taste great together. And so I really, again, if we're talking about mindfulness when it comes to our food and getting out of the recipe mode, getting out of the diet mode, let's think about what can we do to add in nourishing food that we know is packed with nutrients for our mental health. Because the more that we can nourish our brain, the more we will continue to make good decisions about the food that we're eating, the more that we'll be able to go, I really, I love that Starbucks pumpkin spice latte, but I'm not really going to feel that great after having it. So I can make a smoothie with frozen cauliflower rice and pumpkin puree and pumpkin spice and maybe a little protein powder, maybe some almond or coconut milk. And then I'm getting, the same flavor, but that's something that's going to be a little bit more nutrient dense, thinking about maximizing our nutrients. And so I love talking about brain bowls. There are so many other different examples. We can do salmon. Salmon, you know how easy salmon is to cook? It took me forever to realize this. All you do is you hit broil in your oven, you put salmon in for a good 8 minutes, and it's done. I don't like overcooked salmon. I actually err by undercooking my salmon. But that's just add some seasoning, add some, I really like pesto on salmon. Throw some pesto on top of your salmon with some, maybe lay it on some oil so it doesn't get stuck. But then throw it in the oven and broil it for under 10 minutes. Well, now you can add it to rice. You can add it to broccoli. You can add it to just play with your food. Think about colors, flavors, textures, nutrients. We're not talking about calories. And once we can balance out, you might find that you're eating lower calories. Just without even thinking about it, you might find that you're not requiring as much as you thought you needed because you're filling up on nutrients, and that's okay. So those are my biggest things. And the last thing I'm gonna share. Oh, here's a picture. I thought that would be helpful. This is just something we did not long ago. It's fresh corn that we grilled, and some grilled meat that we had is not roasted, sauteed, bell peppers, onions. I think are on there. Let me think what else is on there. It looks like there's some red bell peppers as well. Every color counts. Every color is important. And arugula, because like I mentioned before, that is one of my favorites. And I threw it together. This is not for, the super picky eaters. You might want to work up to it. You might have your, items compartmentalized for a while. But for me, I just throw it all together. And I like that I am getting so many different flavors and so many different colors. And it tells my brain, you're safe. You have food, and you have food that's good. So you don't need to go out and go crazy at whatever fast food place, because you're receiving nutrients. And even just the time that I take to put that together tells my brain that I'm in a safe place. I think sometimes even just slowing down and preparing our meals, that does a lot for our digestion as well. All right, so where do I go from here? Start small. Making any kind of change is stressful. Again, a body in stress won't digest. I will say that 1,000 times every time I get a chance to speak to people, because it's so important. So think about, what tiny steps can I take today? I spent a lot of time talking to you guys about those antidepressant foods, because some of those things, they seem so basic that we would just skip it. Like adding a lemon to water. We think, oh, that's too easy. That's not enough. I'm an American. I go hard. I go all the way, right? Like we just think we have to do these hard things, these overachieving things, but start small, because the smaller that you start, the more that you're going to lead to lasting change. And the more these things are going to become habits. And so drinking, like I said, water with lemon, drinking enough water, grocery prepping, as in make a list. Sometimes for me, I even put my list in order of where I know I'm going to get it in the store, because then I'm in and out. Or order your groceries online and have them delivered. It might be an extra charge, an extra cost, but that might be what you need for less stress. Again, we do not want to be stressed out about mealtime or about our food. And eating with kids is a whole other topic for a whole other presentation I'd have to talk about on a different day. But just for limiting stress, prep your groceries, plan out. I like to plan out 3 meals, 3 or 4. Sometimes I do 3 or 4 meals during the week and planning for leftovers. And then we do like to eat out as a family on the weekend or have takeout, or we have a day where we are making some extravagant recipe that we've never tried before. We really like that. But then even after you get your groceries, maybe start meal prepping then. If you have a little extra time, start meal prepping. Hold on. Excuse me. And start chopping your vegetables when you get home. That can be helpful. Planning, portioning out whatever it is that you need for the day that you're going to cook to make it less stressful for you. Think about, what are your non-negotiables when it comes to your meals? I know for me, I want to always have my rainbow veggies. I should have put that first because that's really important. I used to be like, I have one vegetable tonight, I'm doing good. These days I'm like, how many more can I have? What else can I add on there? What else do we have that I can just throw in? So have your rainbow veggies, have a good quality protein, have a healthy fat. I never have to encourage anybody to eat carbs because we do that naturally. That's going to be a go-to when we're stressed. And so whatever carb that you like, that you want to include, that fits well. And when I'm saying carbs, I mean grain carbs. We're obviously going to get carbs from vegetables, but whatever works for you and your body and your needs, include that as well. But my non-negotiables every day is I try to make sure that I have a healthy fat, rainbow vegetables, quality protein. The veggies are going to help be a strong fiber content. But that's really where I start. And so if all of this was overwhelming to you, and I'm trying to simplify as much as possible, just remember that your thoughts about your food matter. And so if you are going on a super restrictive diet and you're thinking, I'm doing this for myself, it's going to be great. Maybe for a while it will be. And maybe, those positive thoughts about the super restrictive diet that you're going on are going to carry you for a little while. But at some point, if you are nutrient depleted, you're going to start craving the same old, same old. So load up on your nutrients. Be mindful, be grateful, take your time. I know that's something I have to remind myself of all the time. Is to slow down, chew your food, allow for resting and digesting. We don't do that. We stay too long in the sympathetic fight or flight state, and we don't give our bodies recovery time. So allow for that. Make sure that your body works so hard for you. Your body needs to know that you are safe. When your body knows that you're safe, your body will be even more on your side than it already is. Remember, even those negative, unpleasant symptoms is just your body sending out alert signals. Your body's always on your side. But when your body knows that you're safe, that's when your body can really optimally function the way that it was intended to function. And so I will just leave you with that. If you want to contact me, my website is sparkingwholeness.com. I have quite a few. My food pictures are not great. I'm not a food photographer. So, don't judge me on that. But I do have a lot of recipes on there that are easy, that I like to just throw together for my family. We have a lot of, I would call them frequent flyers, meals that come up often throughout the month, just because it's easy. It's something I know to do. You can listen to my podcast, Sparking Wholeness. As Tracy mentioned in the beginning, I have had some controversial guests. I've had some, everyday run-of-the-mill guests, but I try to add variety there for people who are just wanting to increase knowledge on holistic living, holistic health, and whatever that looks like for you. And then my Instagram is Sparking Wholeness, and my Facebook is Sparking Wholeness Integrative Nutrition. So if you have any questions, let me know. I'm always available to chat with people. You send me, slide into my DMs and I'll talk to you. I love meeting new people. But I feel like I rushed the first part of the presentation. I hope it wasn't too rushed, but I really feel passionate about making sure that our brains are nourished with what they need, whether it's thought wise or food wise.
Yeah, absolutely. That was great information. Thank you. And we really enjoyed having you back. People are saying such great information. Thank you, Erin. So thanks so much for being here and sharing all of your wisdom and knowledge and just your personal journey, because I think the me stories are very powerful.
Yeah. I didn't share enough about that this time, but it's definitely, this is life or death, you guys. We're talking about our mental health. It's life or death. I don't ever want to be in the dark pit of depression or the soaring highs of mania ever again.
Right.
That's a scary place to be. And so I have to play offense. I don't play defense with my mental health. And so I hope that that's a key takeaway for people who are listening as well. You have control.
Yes, you
You
do.
can control what you put in your brain and what you put in your bodies.
Amen. All right. Well, thank you so much, Erin. And thank you,
Thank
everybody, for
you.
joining us. Get in touch with Erin if you like, and she can help you with recipes. Go check out her website, Sparking Wholeness. Great podcast, too. Thanks, everybody, for joining us today. And we'll see you tomorrow when we're back here bright and early at 8:30 a.m. with our morning commentary. Go to the World of Wellness, Weiner Wellness Center, and get your deep discounts on all the products in the